Would you really do anything for the sake of getting your dream job? These actors did, and you might not believe what they went through for a role.
From hearing loss to spinal injuries to painful stunts gone wrong, some actors have suffered lasting consequences for the sake of making their art. Natalie Portman put herself on a strict diet and lost 20 pounds to play the part of fragile ballerina Nina Sayers in Darren Aronofsky's dark drama Black Swan. She wasn't the only one to take a method approach to her character, though. Her co-star Mila Kunis followed suit, but didn't get nearly as much attention for her transformation. She told radio host Howard Stern, "I used to be a smoker, and so I smoked a lot of cigarettes, and I ate a limited amount of calories, 1,200 calories, and I smoked. I don't advocate this at all. It was awful." Kunis later revealed that her body has never returned to the state it was in before preparations for Black Swan began. She told Harper's Bazaar, "My shape is different. When I got down to 95 pounds, I was muscle like a little brick house, but skin and bones. When I gained it back, it went to completely different areas."
I will never dance again. I promise you, I will never put on that pointe shoe ever again.
In a candid 2018 interview with the New York Times, Uma Thurman shared some revelations about director Quentin Tarantino. During the production of Kill Bill, Tarantino reportedly forced Thurman to perform a dangerous driving scene that left her with lasting damage. She told The Times, "I was scared." He said, "I promise you this car is fine. It's a straight piece of road. Hit 40 miles per hour or your hair won't blow the right way and I'll make you do it again." But that was a death box that I was in. The seat wasn't screwed down properly. It was a sand road and it was not a straight road. Thurman lost control of the car and gear and it veered off the road, crashing into a tree and leaving her in so much pain that she feared that she'd lost her ability to walk for good. While it wasn't as bad as she initially feared, the accident left her with lasting injury to her neck and knees. The accident is part of the reason that Thurman, who'd also starred in Tarantino's Pulp Fiction, hasn't worked with the director since Kill Bill Volume 2. Wolverine, the adamantium claw-wielding member of the super-heroically mutated X-Men, is one of the most pronounced and famous grunts in all of popular culture. Every iteration of the character imprints on the small screen and in a series of feature films spanning 2 decades has been depicted as a scowling, grumbling tough guy who ultimately mutters dialogue in a raspy mutter or angry shout. No one has played Wolverine more often than Hugh Jackman. Jackman revealed that his voice and vocal cords still suffer from the consequences of that iconic voice. He told BBC Radio 4's Front Row in 2023, "My teacher at drama school would have been horrified by some of the things I did in Wolverine. I've done some damage to my voice through playing Wolverine." Specifically, Jackman has said that when he performs in musicals, he finds that he can't reach the high notes the way he once did. He continued, "I put that down directly to some of the growling and yelling I did." The fishiest star of the DC universe may look like an unbeatable, impossible-to-hurt superhero, but Jason Momoa is only human. After the first Aquaman movie became a global box office sensation in 2018, Warner Brothers quickly ordered a sequel, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Throughout the filming of the physically demanding and stunt-heavy action movie, Momoa suffered for his art, chalking up his vulnerability to his advancing age. The actor told Ellen DeGeneres, "I'm getting old. I messed up my eyes. I just got something in it that kinda cut it up. And then I've got to get surgery, I have a hernia, I've got ribs out. I'm just getting beat up." In addition to what he confirmed as a scratched cornea and hernia, Momoa revealed to Yahoo that he wound up with a facial scar after a fight scene in the 2018 movie Braven went sideways. He recalled, "I got knocked out. A stunt guy hit me. He blindsided me. We didn't make eye contact and he hit me before I could grab for him, and everything went black." Momoa required hospitalization for the incident, and shooting on Braven was put on hold for a day. In 2016, production on the final chapter in the Maze Runner series was suspended indefinitely due to a horrific on-set accident involving Dylan O'Brien. The franchise's young star sustained severe brain trauma when a stunt involving a motorcycle went very wrong. O'Brien effectively needed to have his face put back together by a skilled reconstructive surgeon. The actor told the Salt Lake Tribune, "I have 4 plates that will be a part of me forever. I feel really lucky to have come away from it, in terms of coming away from it at all on the day, and really how my face has healed. I was really lucky with a really brilliant doctor, and he salvaged a lot of what I used to look like. I think it's really astonishing how well everything healed and how my doctors fixed me up." After a bit of a break to heal up, O'Brien got back to work in Hollywood, but his traumatic experience left him with some lasting worries. In 2020, he told Variety, "Even to this day, if I'm on set and I'm doing a stunt, if I'm in a rig, if there's some action going on, I am slightly irritable. There is a degree of anxiety in me that I don't think there's ever not going to be." After breaking into stardom with her role as Van on FX's award-winning dramedy Atlanta, Zazie Beetz was suddenly being offered work in movies much bigger than the shorts and indies in which she was used to performing. In 2018, she co-starred in the big-budget superhero comedy Deadpool 2 as Domino, a member of the titular hero's X-Force of powerful rogues. Domino's special power? She's extremely lucky.
Luck isn't a superpower.
Yes, it is.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is.
No, ma'am. Mario Lopez.
Yeah.
Life did not imitate art on the set of Deadpool 2, unfortunately. According to USA Today, the film was a physically grueling experience for the actors, with Beetz training for 4 hours a day for months before filming began. That was far from the worst part, though, as things would continue to go wrong for her once rehearsal ended. During one action sequence that involved a high-speed truck chase, Beetz lost consciousness, and during an elaborate fight scene, a stray casing from a freshly fired shell landed on her chest, burning her skin and leaving a permanent scar. Alfre Woodard agreed to take on the role of 21st century spacecraft builder Lily Sloan in the 1996 film Star Trek First Contact because she was friendly with several members of the cast, including Brent Spiner, LeVar Burton, and especially director Jonathan Frakes. A pivotal scene called for a massive explosion when the enemy Borg sends a ship into the past, which slams into Earth and sends many of the good guys flying. Woodard recalls practicing the sequence for many hours, in which she and a number of stunt performers were to jump as if they'd been knocked into the air, spin around, and land so the cameras could capture their reactions. Woodard told Collider, "The explosion was so intense it just knocked us off our butts. We just fell any way we could." At that point, Woodard realized she'd torn up her costume and her arms were covered in blood. Frakes got his shot, but Woodard still bears scars on both of her arms from the stunt. A lot can go wrong on a movie set, even on a relatively low-tech comedy. Case in point, in 1986, Steve Martin, along with Martin Short and Chevy Chase, starred in the action-tinged comedy Three Amigos. In this goofy romp, three silent-era Western film stars get stuck in a terrorized Mexican village and have to save its residents who think they are the brave heroes who play in the movies, and not the spoiled and cowardly actors they really are. Martin's character, Lucky Day, deals with a number of uncomfortable situations to which he's unsuited, including several shootouts. That may have led to a case of tinnitus, a persistent, high-pitched and grating ringing of the ears. The actor and comedian has suffered from the condition ever since the production of Three Amigos, but he thinks something else could have triggered it. He told Pitchfork in 2015, "I was shooting the Three Amigos and I got tinnitus. I blamed it on the gunfire at the time, but since then I realized it was just my destiny after listening to music too loud my whole life and playing live concerts with 28,000 screaming people. It was like being in a football stadium."
It's like living with a 6-year-old.
Thankfully, Martin has learned to live with the tinnitus. He continued, "It becomes your natural background noise." While making 2013's Thor: The Dark World, Jaimie Alexander, who played Thor's ally Sif, suffered a painful-sounding injury. Speaking with MTV News, Alexander explained that she'd slipped and fallen from an unfortunate height, elaborating, "I herniated a disc in my thoracic spine, dislocated my left shoulder, tore my right rhomboid, and chipped 11 vertebrae." Alexander thought the injury might not be a big deal, but the next morning it was still pretty bad, and then it got worse. She continued, "I got in a car to go to the hospital, and I sat in the car and compressed my spine a little bit, and went paralyzed in my right leg and my right hand. After a month of physical therapy, Alexander was back on set, swinging a sword. But spinal injuries like that don't just go away entirely. It seems like playing an Asgardian might not be all it's cracked up to be." Blake Lively's 2016 hit The Shallows proved that she had some genuine action chops, and the actor was duly rewarded with a lead role in her very own spy thriller, The Rhythm Section. Sadly, things went south for Lively in late 2017, as an on-set injury she sustained while filming an action sequence with Jude Law caused the film to halt production. Sources informed The Hollywood Reporter that Lively's hand injury wasn't thought to be all that serious at first, but the surgery she underwent after sustaining it apparently failed to fix the issue. Further surgeries followed, with both Paramount and Lively awaiting instructions from surgeons on how best to proceed. In early 2018, she was cleared to return to the set. Filming resumed later in the year, but Lively's hand never quite returned back to the way it was before.
I severed a ligament here, so my knuckles are kind of dropped, and then I, dislocated these two bones.
In The Wizard of Oz, the beloved 1939 film adaptation of L. Frank Baum's fantasy novel, Jack Haley played the Tin Man, the friendly metal monster on his way to see the wizard to acquire a heart. However, Haley wasn't MGM's first choice for the role, or even the first actor cast. According to Vanity Fair, Buddy Ebsen, best known for his later leading gigs on the Beverly Hillbillies and Barnaby Jones, was hired first. When rehearsing in makeup and under studio lights, the crew repeatedly covered Ebsen's face with aluminium dust to keep his white grease paint from running. One night during the rehearsal period, Ebsen awoke with painful cramps in his limbs. His face had turned blue and he couldn't breathe. The actor spent 2 weeks of hospitalization in an oxygen tent. His body had to divest itself of the large amount of toxic aluminium sitting in his lungs. With his recovery taking longer than they liked, MGM fired Ebsen and installed Haley instead. Another cast member of The Wizard of Oz also experienced a severe medical reaction. Ray Bolger portrayed the brainless Scarecrow, and on the final day of shooting, he took off his rubber and burlap-based prosthetic mask for the last time. When he did, he discovered that he had received burlap-like scars all over his chin and mouth.
What's the grossest thing that an actor had to do to nail a performance? Well, one female actress had to actually put a live bird in her mouth. Keep watching to find out who it was. There has long been talk of Halle Berry going to extraordinary lengths to get into character as Vivian alongside Samuel L. Jackson in Jungle Fever, Spike Lee's 1991 exploration of romance and race relations. Jackson portrayed the scene-stealing, drug-addled brother of Wesley Snipes' lead character named Gator, while Berry was Gator's hard-scrabble main squeeze. Jungle Fever features a memorable scene that called for Jackson and Berry to bicker back and forth when Gator wants some alone time with his brother. For Berry, who came from the world of modeling, it was an unexpected role and one she had worked hard to land. To prepare for the part, she spent several weeks not bathing, with most reports claiming that she went unwashed for 2 weeks. Some even speculated that her avoidance of soap and water went as long as 2 months. In 2012, the Oscar winner told talk show host Wendy Williams that the method tale was no exaggeration, claiming to have avoided bathing for about 10 days. She said, "It's true. Ask Sam Jackson. He had to get a whiff of it constantly." Berry elaborated in a 2016 interview, saying, "Spike Lee wanted me to read for a different role, and I read that part fine enough, but then I said to Spike, you know, I really am eyeing this crack-hoe role. It was an amazing way to start my career." Yes, the rumors are true. Nicolas Cage ate cockroaches. Cast in the role of Peter Loeb, a literary agent suffering from paranoid delusions in the 1988 horror comedy Vampire's Kiss, Cage was a fast-rising Hollywood star at the time. He was known for taking daring risks and making, let's call them, unique choices in his mannerisms. In the years since, the box office flop has become a cult hit, as well as a dependable Halloween watch. Kiss also offers viewers the chance to watch the actor do some off-the-wall things, from falling downstairs to tearing a room apart to screaming the alphabet in its entirety, jumping on desks, chasing pigeons, and pouring hot yogurt on his toes. The odd performance has since fed multiple memes and is considered a landmark in the cinematic evolution of Cage, perhaps the most interesting actor of his generation. To convincingly portray Loeb's spiraling descent into insanity, Cage made a habit of offering to do more than what was being asked of him. For one scene in particular, though the script only called for Loebs to slurp down a raw egg, Cage felt more was needed. Speaking to The Ringer in 2019 about the infamous movie moment, Bierman recalled that day on set. He shared, "Nicolas Cage said to me, 'The thing I hate most in the world are cockroaches, so let me eat a cockroach.' I thought, this is terrific. I sent my prop people down into the boiler room. They brought me a box divided up into little sections with tissue paper. The cockroaches were there, lined up for me to cast." He added, "I think they're actually called water bugs. They're bigger than cockroaches."
I couldn't think of a more horrible job if I wanted to.
Major spoilers for the 2014 murder mystery thriller Gone Girl. If you've seen the film, you'll know the gruesome final act that Rosamund Pike must perform as Amy Dunn, jilted lover and missing person. After attempting to escape her apparently abusive and unfaithful husband Nick, played by Ben Affleck, Amy hides out with another formerly abusive ex-boyfriend, Desi. She makes the world believe she has disappeared while knowingly implicating Nick in the process. The film follows Nick's attempts to clear his name and find his wife, with Amy being revealed as a ruthless, cunning woman out to destroy her husband's life. In the film's climax, Amy decides to return to Nick and is forced to murder Desi and frame him for her disappearance so she and her husband can live happily ever after. Actress Rosamund Pike was required to believably slice the throat of actor Neil Patrick Harris, who played Desi. It was a key scene that she wanted to be prepared for, so she did what any reasonable person would. She got a hold of some pig carcasses and pretended to murder them. The actress told Collider in 2016, "If you're going to do something like that, you have to do it with a certain degree of accuracy. I had no idea how much force you needed to slice someone's throat. I actually went to a butcher and asked them if they wouldn't mind me just using a box cutter on a pig carcass, just to understand what it would be like." Matt Damon was nothing if not dedicated when he took on the role of Max DaCosta, a blue-collar worker in a dystopian future version of Los Angeles in the 2013 film Elysium. The movie was a much-anticipated follow-up to director Neil Blomkamp's indie hit District 9, a science fiction drama featuring overt commentary on South African apartheid. With Elysium, Blomkamp took the formula that worked so well before. This included its social commentary and dialed it up a notch, adding a bigger budget, bigger sets, and bigger stars like Damon and Jodie Foster. But that expanded FX budget didn't mean the entire movie would be filmed on green screen. So to portray Los Angeles in a future where pollution, overpopulation, and climate change had ravaged the landscape, producers used a garbage dump in Mexico City as a stand-in. At San Diego Comic-Con in 2012, Damon spoke to the curious crowd and told them about filming the sci-fi epic and how the landfill location was mostly fecal matter. The helicopters would come through and we'd be black with dust. Neil would come over with his mask and said, "I promise you, the photography looks great." Filming for the 2015 Alejandro Inarritu wilderness epic The Revenant was notoriously difficult. The director himself called the production's harsh conditions a nightmare. Filmed on location in the Canadian Rockies, the crew dealt with bitterly cold temperatures that made production difficult, and Inarritu was heavily criticized for pushing his cast and crew too hard under harsh conditions, in a shoot that went at least 5 months over schedule. Some crew members reportedly ranked it among the worst experiences of their career. One cast member who didn't complain, however, was lead Leonardo DiCaprio. To get into character and deliver his gut-wrenching performance, DiCaprio, known for going above and beyond for his films, went to extreme lengths that included sleeping in animal carcasses and eating raw bison liver. He shared in a 2015 interview, "Whether it's going in and out of frozen rivers or sleeping in animal carcasses or what I ate on set, I was enduring freezing cold and possible hypothermia constantly. I certainly don't eat raw bison liver on a regular basis. When you see the movie, you'll see my reaction to it because Alejandro kept it in. It says it all. It was an instinctive reaction." For the effort, Inarritu would become just the third director to win back-to-back Academy Awards for Best Director, while DiCaprio would take home his first Best Actor trophy. Based on the smash hit comic book by Todd McFarlane, 1997's Spawn is infamously remembered today for its over-the-top, sometimes silly tone. But the cast was certainly taking it seriously. John Leguizamo's character, for instance, appears as a nauseating, bulbous street punk in bizarre facial makeup, whose disgust for humans is rivaled only by an appetite for all things horrifying. In one scene, the character eats a pizza covered with live maggots. Like some other instances above, this immediately led to a debate among viewers about how real the scene actually was. Eventually, the conversation got so loud that the actor himself had to respond. He tweeted in 2014, "Yes, I did eat maggots in Spawn, but I only swallowed a few." He followed it up by warning his fans not to try it at home. He said, "Haha, don't go there." Shia LaBeouf has earned the reputation of a Hollywood eccentric, and in the right hands, this can sometimes translate to powerful on-screen work. This was the case when his talents were tested in David Ayer's acclaimed 2014 World War II picture Fury. Along with much of the cast, LaBeouf took part in several weeks of military boot camp alongside a group of Navy SEALs. Star Brad Pitt said, "It was set up to break us down, to keep us cold, to keep us exhausted, to make us miserable, to keep us wet, make us eat cold food." But LaBeouf, who played a tank driver in the film, took his method performance one step further, going so far as to having one of his teeth removed. He explained on Jimmy Kimmel Live that it wasn't as easy as one might think, saying, "It's not like you can go to some dentist and go in there like, 'Hey, I want to get this tooth taken out.' They were like, 'You want to do what? That doesn't make any medical sense at all.'" But ultimately, LaBeouf insists that he got it done because he wanted to add some depth to the character. He added, "I found a guy in Reseda next to a Radio Shack. He didn't ask too many questions." To further method this madness, Fury co-star Logan Lerman told an interviewer that the scar on LaBeouf's cheek in the film was not only real, but self-inflicted. Lerman explained, "They were putting cuts on Shia, and I said, yeah, it looks good." And Shia was like, "No, it doesn't look real." So he walks out into the hallway and says, "Hey man, want to see something fun? Check this out." And he takes out a knife and cuts his face. For the whole movie, he kept opening these cuts on his face. That's all real. Among the most intensely dedicated actors in Hollywood today, Christian Bale always finds a way to stand out. He notoriously lost 60 pounds for the 2004 flick The Machinist, then immediately bulked up to play Batman. For the Werner Herzog Vietnam War drama, Rescue Dawn, Bale combined these methods and more. Taking on the role of real-life war hero and U.S. Navy pilot Dieter Dengler, Bale committed himself fully to embodying the part of the long-suffering hostage of the Pathet Lao. Tortured and starved, the movie portrays Dengler's struggle to endure his captivity, staying alive for his ultimate rescue by American forces. Bale once again put his heart and soul into a part, challenging himself both physically and mentally during the shoot. These adversities included wrestling a real snake, losing more than 60 pounds, and being physically abused as part of several torture scenes. But perhaps the most nauseating, Bale ate live maggots in an attempt to portray the depths of desperation his real-life character had reached during imprisonment. He said in a 2007 interview, "Oh yeah, those were real maggots. They were very real. I didn't mind eating the maggots." Asked what he wouldn't do, the actor remarked that being set ablaze is something that crosses the line. "Look, I've done other things where people have to be set on fire and jump 3 stories. I'm not doing that. I've got limits."
What's the difference between you and me?
I'm not wearing hockey pads.
Veteran actor Tony Todd has had multiple iconic supporting roles over the years in movies like Platoon and Night of the Living Dead, but it's his part as the titular horror villain in the 1992 film Candyman that terrified moviegoers in multiple films and has haunted dreams for nearly 30 years.
You're mine now.
But it was more than Todd's imposing deep voice, towering physical presence, and razor-sharp hook that scared viewers. The franchise has depicted swarms of bees crawling out of him, from his sleeves, his chest, and even his mouth. And keep in mind that in the early 90s, CGI was a costly, rarely utilized option for horror films. As a result, swarms of real bees were used on set, and actor Tony Todd endured it all, receiving more than 20 bee stings during the shoot. But don't feel too bad for the thespian. He made a smart deal with the film's producers that ended up putting some good money in his pocket, alongside all that calamine lotion. He told Entertainment Weekly while looking back on the film in 2019, "I negotiated a bonus of $1,000 for every sting during the bee scene, and I got stung 23 times. Everything that's worth making has to involve some sort of pain. Once I realized it was an important part of who Candyman was, I embraced it. It was like putting on a beautiful coat." The 2012 movie The Paperboy didn't make many waves with critics or at the box office, but at the time of its release, the film was nonetheless discussed, albeit for all the wrong reasons. Set in 1969, Paperboy tells the tale of a reporter who goes back to his childhood hometown to prove the innocence of a death row inmate found guilty of murdering the local sheriff. Matthew McConaughey plays the intrepid reporter, but a tawdry secondary story involves the film's other 2 leads. Zac Efron plays his younger brother Jack, and Nicole Kidman plays an out-of-towner named Charlotte Hess, girlfriend of the accused. One scene in the film has Efron's Jack Ward getting badly injured and stung by a group of jellyfish. As pop culture of the last few decades would have you believe, there's only one way to overcome such pain, and that's by having someone give you an impromptu golden shower. According to the Cleveland Clinic, this is indeed just a myth, so please don't pee on friends and family without first consulting a doctor. For the scene in question, Kidman actually urinated on Zac Efron. Daniel said in a 2012 interview, "We just went for it and never thought twice about it because it made sense for the film. It was what it was." As the flick made its way through post-production, Daniels began getting doubts. But Oscar winner Kidman encouraged him to stick by his instincts. Daniels recalled, "I think that I became more nervous about it in the edit room, and I thought, I'm not actually going to show this, right? Is it vulgar?" And I called Nicole and said, "I don't know." And she said, "Lee, "You made me pee on Zac Efron. If you don't put it in the movie, you need to man up." And I was like, all right. Joaquin Phoenix is known for his eccentric ways, throwing himself into films like Joker and I'm Still Here. For Paul Thomas Anderson's 2012 film that flirted with the origins of Scientology and the struggle between faith and free will, however, Phoenix may have gone to his most extreme. Portraying Freddie Quell, a veteran of the Second World War suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, Phoenix got very method. So much so that he even wired parts of his jaw shut so he could achieve the character's awkward speech patterns. It's a move somewhat reminiscent of how method hero Marlon Brando used cotton balls to land the role of Don Corleone, but it also made for a wholly unique performance in The Master, one that landed Phoenix an Oscar nomination. Phoenix explained the story in 2014, saying, "My dad sometimes would talk out of the side. He'd clench down one side of his mouth, and I just thought it represented tension in this way, somebody that's just blocked and tight. So I actually went to my dentist and I had them fasten these metal brackets to my teeth on the top and the bottom, and then wrapped rubber bands around it to force my jaw shut on one side." Phoenix went on to explain, "After a couple weeks, the bands, they weren't really strong enough to kind of hold it, so I ended up getting rid of the rubber bands, and I still had these metal brackets in, and so it made me constantly aware of my cheek. You know, they had these pointy tips, so they'd tear up the cheek a little bit." Tim Burton's Batman Returns had some unsettling moments, many of them belonging to Danny DeVito's Penguin. His grotesque appearance and disgusting eating habits made it a bit unpleasant if you were attempting to chow down on a tub of popcorn. But it was the eating habits of the other villain that makes this list. In particular, an infamous scene involving a little birdie. During the scene in question, the villainous Catwoman puts a live bird in her mouth as a way of threatening DeVito's Penguin. Actress Michelle Pfeiffer, who had beat out the likes of Sean Young and Madonna for the in-demand part, was determined to do more than simply toss a rubber prop into her mouth and call it a day. Instead, the actress wanted the full effect, particularly the bird fleeing the coop when she opened her mouth, and actually put a real live bird in her mouth for the scene.
Nice birdie.
These days, after special effects and CG have spent decades rendering audiences accustomed to cinematic trickery, you might not appreciate the lengths Pfeiffer went to for the scene unless you know the backstory. Burton told The Hollywood Reporter in 2017, "I don't think I've ever been so impressed. She had a live bird in her mouth while the camera was rolling. It was 4 or 5 seconds, and then she let it fly out. It was before CG, it was before digital. It was so quick, it seems like it was an effect." Pfeiffer said of the scene, "I look back and say, what was I thinking? I could have gotten a disease or something from having a live bird in my mouth. It seemed fine at the time. I don't think the bird was drugged or anything. We did that scene in one take."
Since it premiered on HBO in the spring of 2011, Game of Thrones has become a worldwide smash. Many stars of the show have skyrocketed to fame, but over the course of making the series, they've also encountered some unexpected hardships. In her years of playing Sansa Stark, Sophie Turner has endured arranged marriages, sexual violence, and the loss of loved ones. Though Sansa began the show as a spoiled child who wanted nothing more than to be a princess, she has grown into a shrewd warrior. Turner hasn't personally been through the horrors that Sansa has, but she's endured her fair share of difficulties, including an unhygienic request. After Sansa escaped from King's Landing, Turner was asked to stop washing her hair so she would look as disheveled as possible during Sansa's darkest times. It wasn't an enjoyable experience for Turner. She said, "It was really disgusting. Now I wear a wig so I can wash my hair whenever I want, which is nice, but yes, for a couple of years I was living with pretty greasy hair." One of the show's all-time hardest scenes to watch has to be the Red Wedding near the end of the 3rd season. Robb Stark betrays his promise to marry the daughter of one of his allies, Walder Frey. So the Freys slaughter Robb, his pregnant bride Talisa, and his mother Catelyn. None of the actors involved in the Red Wedding were particularly excited about filming the sequence, but Una Chaplin, who played Talisa, had it really bad. After her pregnant character is repeatedly stabbed in the stomach, she's left on the floor to torment Robb. Chaplin spent hours lying on a floor in a cold Belfast studio. She was freezing and covered in fake blood while she waited for the rest of the cast to finish their scenes. Chaplin's commitment can't be understated. In the 7th season of Game of Thrones, several characters who hadn't yet met came together, with varying results. When Daenerys Targaryen met Jaime Lannister for the first time, it didn't go very well. During their battle, Bronn, Jaime's right-hand man, must operate an enormous spear launcher to fight against Daenerys' dragon, Drogon. Though Bronn does get one good hit in against Drogon, the machine is quickly burned to ashes. Bronn survives, but gets caught in the flames. Drogon spends most of the scene setting fire to the battlefield. All the actors had to contend with smoke inhalation, but Jerome Flynn, who plays Bronn, got the worst of it. Director of photography Robert McLaughlin burned diesel oil for dramatic black smoke. Most of the crew wore masks. Flynn had to go unmasked, and it's hard to miss the discomfort visible on his face. The Battle of the Bastards, which took place during the show's 6th season, was the culmination of a long chain of events. That included Jon Snow's reunion with his sister Sansa, her escape from her sociopathic husband Ramsay Bolton, and the long-awaited showdown among them all. As with many battles on Game of Thrones, each moment is more brutal than the last, and throughout the fight, it seems unlikely that Jon Snow will emerge victorious. At one point, he ends up submerged in a pile of dead bodies and living soldiers, gasping for breath as he struggles to rise to the surface, which reportedly terrified actor Kit Harington, who plays Snow. He didn't enjoy this part of filming, as being crushed is one of his biggest fears. He gave up his own comfort to create a singular moment for viewers. Speaking of Ramsay Bolton, when viewers met the character, played by Iwan Rheon in Season 3, he was a bastard, much like Jon Snow. When he helped his father, Roose Bolton, secure the North, he was made an official Bolton in his own right. After watching Ramsay generally be the worst person of all time, fans were thrilled when Ramsay met a bitter and bloody end in the aftermath of the Battle of the Bastards. It was especially satisfying to hear him being torn apart by his own pack of angry attack dogs.
They're loyal beasts.
They were. Now they're starving.
But before that goes down, once the larger battle ends, Jon and Ramsay find themselves back at Winterfell ready to keep fighting. Jon snaps and brutally beats Ramsay into submission. However, some of this ended up becoming a reality for Rheon, who was actually punched in the face twice by Harington. Harington said Rheon was extremely nice about the situation, but it's unlikely that Rheon was thrilled about taking 2 for the team. Since debuting on the show during Season 2, Brienne of Tarth, played by actress Gwendolyn Christie, has won audiences' hearts with her fierce battle skills, unerring loyalty, and quick quips. After serving a few fallen characters, including Catelyn Stark, Brienne strikes up a real friendship with Jaime Lannister. Between her bond with the Kingslayer and her continued devotion to Catelyn, Brienne has become a fan favorite. As such, fans are always frightened when Brienne ends up in a life-threatening situation. When Brienne and Jaime are captured and held hostage by Locke, a hunter for House Bolton, Locke forces Brienne to face down a real bear in a fighting pit, causing Jaime to come in and rescue her. Although Christie said the bear was a diva, requiring its own trailer, she also said it was terrifying to face down the giant animal with nothing more than an electric fence between them.
And you
Why
believe
do you
them?
think I look so scared?
Few of Thrones villains have elicited a public reaction quite as visceral as Joffrey Baratheon, the sadistic eldest son of Cersei Lannister. A bitter, violence-hungry child born of incest, King Joffrey's vengeful and ill-advised decision to execute Ned Stark in the show's first season set off most of the entire story's conflict.
So long as I am your king, treason shall never go unpunished. Sir Ilyn, bring me his head.
Viewers have watched him murder sex workers, threaten to beat women, and verbally abuse pretty much everyone. It's no wonder viewers loved watching Joffrey get slapped. He meets an extremely ugly end early in the 4th season. During his wedding to Marjorie Tyrell, Joffrey takes a final sip of wine, gruesomely choking to death in front of the entire court. Actor Jack Gleeson quit acting after his last moments as Joffrey. He said that aside from the choking itself, keeping his eyes open was the hardest part. They actually had to be held open so he didn't blink, making filming the scene that much more uncomfortable. Cersei Lannister, yet another Thrones character that viewers love to hate, has committed her fair share of atrocities. You know, stuff like enabling her evil son Joffrey, carrying on a decades-long affair with her twin brother and slaughtering most of King's Landing by burning them with wildfire. She got her just desserts for some of her crimes at the end of the show's 5th season, when she was forced to take a walk of atonement through King's Landing completely naked while the townspeople verbally and physically abused her. The walk was shot in Dubrovnik, Croatia, near an ancient church. The production was nearly banned, however, due to the nudity. In the end, actress Lena Headey asked for a body double. Thanks to the magic of visual effects, Rebecca Van Cleve's body stood in for Cersei's. Van Cleve spent 3 days walking the streets of Dubrovnik completely naked while crew members and extras shouted and pelted her with food. Van Cleve's face was never shown. During the season 5 finale, Jon, now the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, is betrayed by his men and repeatedly stabbed over accusations of treason. The show cuts to black, leaving anxious fans without answers regarding Jon's fate until the next season premiere. Actor Kit Harington told various media outlets he would not be returning to the show, which turned out to be a pretty enormous lie. Jon was alive and well by the 2nd episode of the next season. Harington reportedly hated lying. With huge fans like President Barack Obama concerned about Jon Snow's fate, Harington had to play it extremely safe for over a year. He did get himself out of a speeding ticket by revealing one of the show's biggest spoilers to an anxious police officer, so at least there was some silver lining to this sacrifice.
I looked at him and went, I'm alive next season. And he says, on your way, Lord Commander.
Throughout Game of Thrones' run, Arya Stark has transformed from a young, impetuous would-be warrior to a truly dangerous, faceless assassin. After watching her father's public execution and making the journey from Westeros to the House of the Undying in Braavos, she agrees to learn from the mysterious face changer, Jaqen H'ghar. She waits outside the house for days to earn her place inside. As soon as Arya learns how to change faces, she uses her power to kill Merwyn Trant. But because it wasn't yet Merwyn's turn to die, Arya is punished by Jaqen, who blinds her and forces her to live as a beggar. While blind, Arya's eyes are clouded. Unfortunately for actress Maisie Williams, her contacts were quite thick and hand-painted, actually obscuring her vision. Williams admitted that while she didn't want to complain, her blind scenes left her in a significant amount of pain. She stuck with it, ensuring that each shot during Arya's blind phase was exactly right. Theon Greyjoy, the once cocky heir to the Iron Islands, has been through his fair share of ordeals. Once a young, stubborn ward of the North, Theon was initially loyal to Robb Stark in the wake of Ned's death. Eventually, he betrayed Robb and was captured by the sadistic Ramsay Bolton, who physically and psychologically destroyed Theon until he referred to himself as Reek. Perhaps the hardest scenes for actor Alfie Allen to endure throughout Thrones were his torture scenes with Ramsay. He spent most of a full season strung up, savagely mutilated and beaten. It can't have been easy for Allen to even pretend to be tortured, and he has since spoken out about how hard it was to play. He watched movies that prominently featured torture, including Quentin Tarantino's bloody classic Reservoir Dogs. Spending so much time within this unflinchingly terrible part of Theon's story must have been incredibly difficult for Allen.